Okay, you're going to go over RIP version 1 routing, a quick overview on how it works, the commands, and the addressing scheme we're going to use in our topology. So RIP version 1 is a classful routing protocol. It's only going to route for ranges class A, B, and C, no VLSMs, no subnetting, and no CIDR notation. Administrative distance of 120 is its default. Okay, so here's an idea of subnetting the .1 255.255.255.0 network or /24 CIDR notation. And here's like the .16/28 subnet. This will not be routed in RIP version 1, so don't do it. Okay. Here are the commands we're going to use, and some show commands to look at our configuration and make sure everything's working. And the addressing scheme: router 1, router 2, hosts A and B. Let's look at the topology. We have host A to host B. This is what we want to do, getting through the routers using RIP. Okay, and they're connected with serial connections. These are 2811 Cisco routers, or at least logically. Alright, and then just some basic Microsoft computers here. So let's go into router 1 and begin its initial configurations to get it up and running. Okay. Enable to get into privilege exec mode. Configure for global configuration mode. We want to give this router a name, so hostname command, name it router 1. And now if we look at the interfaces, do show IP interface brief, everything is down. Okay, we know that 000 though is connected, and it is connected to router 2 basically. So let's go and configure that interface first. Give it its IP address. Looking at our addressing scheme over here on the left side, this is going to have 192.168.1.1, 255.255.255.0 subnet for class C. And we also want to know if this serial interface is going to run the clock rate. So it's either going to be router 1 or router 2 that's going to run the clock rate. So to check that, we do the show controllers command. Whoops. Okay, we see that it's the DCE cable end, and that means that we do need to run the clock rate on router 1. So let's do that. And we'll give it 64,000 kilobit clock rate. Okay, that's good to go, and we're going to turn it on with no shutdown. Okay, we got one more interface on router 1. That's going to be interface fast Ethernet 00. Okay, and we just got to give it an IP address, which is 192.168.101.1 subnet mask. Alright, so that's the interface connecting router 1 and host A. Okay, so router 1 I think is good to go. Let's go to router 2 and configure that device. Same commands, initial configurations, getting into global config mode. You want to give it a host name, router 2, and let's look at the addressing scheme. None of the interfaces are up, so we know we need to configure the IP addresses and turn them on. So let's go to interface 000 first. We know that the other side was the DCE end. Just to show you guys that this is the DTE end where we don't configure the clock rate, let's do the show controllers command. And there it is, DTE cable. So this is the cable, DTE cable side, so no clock rate is needed. Let's just give it an IP address. Okay, and let's just turn it on. That's all we need to do. Now let's configure the interface fast Ethernet 00 that is connected to host B on router 2. Let's give it the IP address, which is 192.168.100.1. 255.255.255.0 subnet mask, and let's turn it on. Alright, so let's enable RIP now on the routers. So let's go back to router 1. Let's exit the interface configuration mode. We're going to run router RIP to turn on RIP version 1 routing. And we're just going to, we want to advertise our interface networks now, our networked interfaces. So let's look at our interfaces. Do show IP interface brief. I'm running the show IP interface brief command to see the configured interfaces we just configured. So those are the interfaces. Let's advertise them now using RIP. So still in RIP configuration mode, we're going to use the network command and advertise the networks that we have configured on our interfaces. That's the first one, and the second one is on fast Ethernet 00 68.101.0 network. Okay. I also noticed that the fast Ethernet 00 network interface is down, so let's go back into that and do the no shutdown command. Maybe I forgot to turn it on. Okay, so now it's up. Okay, let's do the same thing on router 2. We need to configure RIP. So let's exit the RIP configuration mode we were in. And now we want to go into router RIP configuration mode. Okay, that's going to turn on version 1 RIP routing. And let's look at our interface to show interface brief. Let's advertise those interfaces. Network 192.168.1.0 network 2.168.100.0 ID. Okay, they should be good to go now. Let's try the ping from host A to host B and see if it works. So these have been configured. Let's just verify. IP config. This is Microsoft networking here. Got its address, subnet, and default gateway. Okay, let's verify host B. Address, subnet mask, default gateway. Okay, so let's try to ping from host B to host A. Host to A's IP address .2. Okay, and we got a reply. So that means RIP was configured correctly, and the routers are talking to each other, and they're advertising the networks between host A and router 1 and host B and router 2. To verify some of these configurations, let's look at some show commands. So we're going to go back to privilege exec mode. We're going to run show IP protocols. And with this, we can see that router 1 is using RIP routing protocol. Okay. We know that it's sending updates every 30 seconds, when the next update is due, when the updates are invalid, how long to hold the updates, when they get flushed. Okay, here we can see version 1 is definitely being used, and it's saying receive any version, so I guess version 2 would also work. Here's the interfaces that are configured, and then we got the networks that we're advertising. Here we can verify. We can see that router 1 is only using classful network addressing here. In this case, class C. And we can see that information sources, so we're getting updates from router 2's serial interface that's connected there. Alright, and it's saying, I guess, a default distance of 120 is assigned to it. So RIP default distance 120. Okay, let's look at our IP. Let's look at the routing table now. Let's verify the routing table. we should see the routes to the host B router 2 network, and we do. 192.168.100 network via 192.168.1.2, which is the 0.0 interface on router 2. And it tells us that actually. Okay, so actually I think that means that it's going out 0.0 interface of router 1. Okay, so, and then our directly connected networks. Okay, actually, yeah. It might mean that this is on router 2 then. Because here we have the 1.0 network directly connected on 0.0. Actually, no, it might mean 0.0, yeah, on router 1. Okay. So we can see the routes there that are connected and working. Same thing on router 2. We could see the same thing there if we did that. Right, okay. Just want to make sure we got version 1 running. All that looks good. Okay. Here we got router 1 and host A's on network. Again, this is router 2, and we're routing to this network via router 1's serial interface on 0.0.0. Alright. That is pretty much RIP version 1 routing. Yeah, so those are the show commands, how we can look at the configurations, and this is pretty much everything I used here. Alright, if you have any questions, just let me know. Thanks.